If you are thinking of rebranding yourself, changing your niches, and completely starting over, stop, drop, and roll for a second. Watch this video first because what I'm about to tell you is completely going to shift your paradigm around rebranding, pivoting, and starting over. Hi, my name is Mina Irfan, and I have been the transformation queen, identity queen here on YouTube for the last 15 years. And I have had many rebrands and many pivots because you cannot be on YouTube for 15 years and not grow and evolve. And I have learned a lot about burning down versus bridging. And before we get into my 3 secrets on how you can rebrand without burning down and feeling like you're starting from scratch, let me actually share the story of my parents. So my parents were Pakistani American immigrants. So they were immigrants to the United States, and I watched them work really, really hard. So both of my parents were the first to travel outside of their country and come to the United States in their families. And they were brilliant and they were smart and they were the first ones here. And even though they worked really, really hard, they were the king and queen of burning down and starting over, burning down and starting over. In fact, by the time I was a teenager, we had lived in 30 different addresses. They were constantly moving states, moving homes, sending us back home that we're moving there now and then coming back. And what happened is as they got older, they looked at their peers who had come to the United States way after them didn't have the 2-income household that my parents had, weren't as educated, but they were all way further ahead. And this was really hard for my parents because those people weren't constantly burning down, they were stacking their blessings. And so this is something that I really closely learned. The interesting thing is that even though I watched my parents do this, I had this tendency as well. It's almost like that, it's like in your blood, right? And so in my 20s, I did find myself doing that in certain areas, but not in other areas. And so when I started this YouTube channel almost 15 years ago, I started this channel without knowing a brand, without having any of that in my mind. I was just grieving the loss of my mother, and I started this YouTube channel, which was basically an extension of the blog that I had at that time. And so I started with doing hauls. My first video on YouTube was a Victoria's Secret pink haul, and then I was doing like MAC hauls, and then I was doing like Louis Vuitton hauls. And quickly from that, we moved to Houston, Texas, and I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and my whole world came crashing down. I had young kids. I had just had my second baby and I wanted to have more kids. And all I could think about was my mother's cancer and how I had to heal myself. So I went into deeply studying nutrition and keto and autoimmune diet, and my content quickly pivoted from the Louis Vuitton hauls to keto, autoimmune, rheumatoid arthritis videos, lifestyle videos. From there, I started talking about inner work and spirituality because I also learned that, our emotions and all of that stuff contributes to autoimmune diseases. So notice that my YouTube channel started on one topic and I pivot to another topic, and then I pivot to another topic, and then I started talking about relationships and how I was improving my marriage and communication skills, and then I pivoted to that topic. And then people started saying, oh my God, you should be a life coach. I would hire you. And so I went and I got certified as a life coach. And then again, my content pivoted and I started making content on coaching and then feminine and masculine energetics. And so I have pivoted my content so many times on my channel. And so everything I'm about to share with you, I'm going to share with so much experience on what to do and what not to do. Some of these mistakes I've made and some of them I've learned from watching other people make. So number 1 secret to rebranding without burning down so you can actually bridge into blessings and compound your success is number 1, first let's define, what do we even mean by brand? What does a brand actually mean? So what to me a brand means is my personal values plus my skills and expertise plus my passion/fun, what I want to talk about, equals brand. So let's talk about the most important pillar of this, your personal values. In order for your business to be successful, in order for your brand to have longevity, and the people that I work with are like me, they want to build a legacy brand. For example, I have over 200 digital assets now in the form of courses and books and intensives that are being passed down to my descendants. Like, it's literally in my will, right? So I'm not trying to build a business where I can make a quick buck and at the expense of my personal values or longevity. I'm thinking way ahead, right? I'm thinking 7 generations ahead. And so in order for something to have longevity, I believe it needs to match your personal values, because I've seen people start businesses that did not match their values. They don't exist now, because you can't keep something going for the long haul that is in direct opposition to who you are as a person and what you stand for and what you are willing to die for. And so clarifying that first has been an important pillar, I believe, to my 8-figure and scaling to 9-figure success. And this is the number one thing I have my clients clarify first, because if you're gonna have longevity in business, you're going to need to make sure that it matches your big picture. Another way of thinking about it is your personal values are either your umbrella or they're the roots, right? Like, it's the roots from which all the other branches really form. So clarify that first. And then you add your expertise and your skill sets. So give you an example. I'm going to pull some examples from my Kainat Success Academy. So I'm going to talk about Dr. Shushma. So she is a medical doctor, and she is clear on her personal values: family, faith, freedom, healing, right? And then she adds to that, okay, I have medical expertise, I'm a doctor. And then she's adding to it the third thing, which is her passion, what she wants to do. Well, she's passionate about helping medical professions have a full-rounded, fun life experience. She wants them to have a full life, amazing relationships. She wants them to come alive with their own lifestyle versus just putting their own needs aside at the expense of being a doctor. And so she's taken her current expertise, right, added her personal values, added what she's passionate about. That's her brand. And that is her brand. And the thing is that she doesn't have to burn anything down. She doesn't have to stop being a doctor. She doesn't have to forget about what she really wants to talk about, which is like having a holistic life experience for medical professions, so they are not burned out, so their relationships aren't suffering. She doesn't have to burn any of that down, because it fits perfectly under her model of her personal values. And as she grows and evolves, her business can evolve with her. Because here's the truth: after talking to tens of thousands of people globally, I'll tell you this: most people's values don't drastically change. We evolve and refine our values, but our values typically are what they are, right? And so that's a really good check to know if you're going to have longevity in your business. Like, even if you look at my YouTube journey that I just shared with you, look at like what I was grieving my mom's death. So I started a YouTube channel. I started sharing what was real and honest for me at the time. I was a stay-at-home mom, just had my second baby, sharing what my lifestyle was being a stay-at-home mom. I'm doing hauls, I'm talking about the things that are real. And then I get diagnosed with this rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis, and I start talking about, okay, I know how to research, I know how to study. That's what I always fall back on. I'm a nerd. And I started nerding out, and I started sharing that. And then as I healed that, I moved into inner work. Well, notice that my personal values are so embedded throughout the whole journey. It doesn't matter if I was talking about Louis Vuitton hauls or rheumatoid arthritis or nutrition or lifestyle or inner work, or like, it's always about growth. It's always about evolution. It's always about family and faith. The structure of my personal values held all of those different topics under that umbrella. So it's so much easier to evolve that way, where you're not feeling boxed in that you can't ever talk about anything else. As long as it matches your personal values, you can just bridge it. So that's number one, is let's define our personal values. Okay, so now let's talk about, well, how do we bridge the evolution instead of burning down? So when I was doing Louis Vuitton hauls, I didn't just suddenly start talking about keto. I talked about, guys, I you remember how I was telling you guys that I'm losing my hair and getting these skin rashes and my joints keep hurting? Well, guess what? I just found out that I have this autoimmune disease. And so I took people on a journey, and I wish that content was still on YouTube. I took the advice of one of my former mentors and took down like 1,000 videos, which is probably my biggest regret. Do not burn things down. I know this from personal experience. That content would have been so cute. In fact, I found some of it on our Dropbox, and I've been posting little clips on Instagram, and you guys have been loving it, watching like that version of Mina from like, 12, 13, 14 years ago. And so I've burned things down. I'm speaking from experience. Don't do it, okay? So I didn't just abruptly like go from Louis Vuitton to keto. I took them along that journey. I told them I'm reading these books. Okay, now I'm taking these supplements. I tried out this didn't work, this worked. I didn't create, I like documented. It was like I took them around, along that journey, and that made some people unsubscribe who were like, well, I subscribed to you for Louis Vuitton. It's like, sorry, but like I'm going through a crisis over here, right? I'm gonna be talking about the thing that's most relevant to my life right now. Some unsubscribed, some stayed, and some new people found me. So that's how I was able to pivot without like having to completely burn down and start a new YouTube channel or anything like that. And I didn't have a business at this time. It was just the YouTube channel. And then when I started talking about inner work, I didn't abruptly just say, okay, I'm ditching this channel, starting a new channel, or like I'm just gonna pretend like that never happened. I said, guys, I've also learned from studying all of the stuff around autoimmune diseases is that our emotions also contribute to autoimmune diseases. And so that was the bridge. And so when you know your personal values and you have your brand based on that, you don't burn down, you bridge. And so now if you look at my company, I have over 200 different offers. I've got courses on relationships, inner work, manifestation, money, business, entrepreneurship, all the things. And the reason is because they're all bridged, meaning they all go back to my umbrella of my big idea of who I am as a human being, what I stand for, and what I'm willing to die for. If you were using the tree analogy, the root is my personal value, and all of these different courses and different offers that I have are branches. And what it's done for me is in the last 15 years, I've attracted a group of women that are similar to me in the sense that they also have similar personal values. They believe in legacy. They believe in spirituality. They believe in longevity. They believe in evolution. They believe in growth. And the people that came in at any point in time where I was only talking about that one topic, two things happened. Either when I pivoted, they left, or they stayed. And either one is okay, because I ultimately want the best thing for all people. If someone came to me for autoimmune disease content and I'm not making that anymore, and they leave, that's good, because I want them to find the right content for them, right? I want them to find the kind of content that is going to help them in the phase that they're in right now. And so for what's happened with me is that now I have a community of women that they might be a different age group, they might be a different religion, they might be all the way across 7 continents, but the core values are similar. And so for them, it doesn't matter if I'm releasing a parenting course or a money course or a business course or a relationship course, because we have similar values, they're interested in hearing what I have to say. They're interested in my frameworks. They're interested in how I do that area of life. Speaking of which, before we move on to secret number 3, I want to invite you into my Identity Raise Your Floor Masterclass that's happening on October 5th, 2025. If you're watching this afterwards, you can catch the replay. But in this masterclass, I'm talking about how you can raise your floor and become the identity queen in your category. And what I like to refer to this as the category queen, so that you never have to feel like you're boxed in. You never have to feel like you have to stick with what niche. We're going to talk about how your personal values are branded in your company so that you can continue to bridge and evolve your message and your offerings without having to start all over again or burn anything down. And so it's a $55 masterclass experience, which I will link in the description box for you. Okay, so this brings us to point number 3, and that is to make content for your reach and not always for your audience. When we are reading the comments of the people that are currently in our audience, or maybe your business is not online, but you're getting feedback from your existing clients, it can be really hard to pivot into the next thing. The reason is because you think, oh my God, these people are saying this, they want to talk about this. You feel that the only way you can actually go to the thing you want to talk about is if you started all over again, if you got rid of these people, if you burned this down. But here's the thing, here's what you need to understand. The people that comment the most, the people that are the loudest in the comments don't really represent your actual buyers. This is a really interesting paradox that I've seen in my business, and I've discussed this with my mentors and also with so many of my students, and they say the same thing. It's really quite interesting, but our audience is typically divided into 3 categories. The people that usually comment the most and the loudest typically don't buy. They're not buyers. The people that comment sometimes, they buy sometimes. The people that never comment always buy. It's a really weird. I know if you're hearing this for the first time, you might be like, what? It doesn't even make sense. But this is such an interesting paradox. And when I first heard this, I was like, interesting. And I sat back and I said, okay, well, what is my buying behavior? And here's the truth. I never comment on anyone's stuff, but I always buy. Okay, the people that I follow, whatever they release, I'm like, I'm so busy buying the thing, I don't comment, right? And typically a lot of buyers don't comment is because when they see how everyone else is commenting, there's such a big divide in followers versus buyers a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times. And so what can happen is when you're pivoting, you're looking at the comments and you're like, oh no, people don't want me to talk about this. They want me to talk about this. Those are not your buyers. I know that's like really hard to understand for a lot of people, and I'm sure there's exceptions. Maybe there's brands out there where everyone that comments also buys. I've never heard of this. And here's what you have to understand. I spend a lot of money, like ungodly amounts of money on personal development, group coaching containers, like all the things. Like this is my passion. It's an industry that I'm obsessed with. I have a very large budget for spending on these things. Just in 2024 alone, I was in 14 different masterminds, right? Ranging from like $25,000 all the way to $50,000, $60,000. And all of these people confirm that the loudest people in your audience are not your buyers. And that can really mess with your head, because when you're going to pivot and start talking about, you're going to start having a more elevated conversation as you're evolving your brand, you're learning more, you're investing in yourself, you're growing. These are going to be the people that are saying, I like the 2019 version of you, because they're still living 5 years ago. They're not investing in growth. They treat personal development content as entertainment. They just watch a whole bunch of stuff. They don't really implement it. So of course, it's going to make them feel really uncomfortable when you're constantly evolving and growing. You cannot make business decisions based on the people commenting. These are not your buyers. And that is hard for a lot of people to understand. When I actually look at the people in my paid offerings and the people that comment on YouTube, it's like 2 completely different types of people. And so this is something that I remind my clients all the time, that do not base the future of your brand and your identity and who you're becoming based on the comments on your social media. They are not your buyers. 99.9% of the time. And when I point this out, they start noticing it too. They start talking to their paid clients and they learn that most paid clients do not comment. Now there is that little sliver in the middle where they sometimes buy and sometimes comment, but for the most part, they don't comment. So you need to make business decisions based on where you're going, based on your reach, not your audience. And so this, you don't have to announce this, because if you announce it, it's like people who try to do like a press release for every pivot. It's not necessary, because the people that will engage with the press release will be that audience that always comments. The audience that's really uncomfortable with your growth, the audience that doesn't want to lose that version of you, the audience that's not ready to come with you because they're not actually doing personal development work. They're not actually growing. They don't know anything about business, first and foremost. Some of the comments that I receive are so interesting because I'm like, wow, like if you were even like a baby in your business, you would know what, like, why I'm doing this or why, right? But most of these people don't know, and that's okay. You just cannot be making big business decision and brand decision based on comment from people that are not on the path with you. They're not in the same field. They don't understand, right? It's like taking advice from a broke person on how to be wealthy. It's not gonna work. They haven't done it. They don't actually have lived embodied experience in that. And so I know that can be hard when you're used to a certain, a certain number of comments or things like that. But what I want you to do, instead of making a press release and announcing stuff, is just start really getting in the head and psyche of the future, the person you're trying to reach, not the person that's existing in your audience. And what will happen is, this is what's happened with me, is some people will immediately fall away. Some people that were casually watching you will come closer and be like, yes, she's finally speaking my language. I've been waiting to hear this from her. Or, wow, this is interesting. They'll come closer, okay? And then you'll attract new people that are already at that level. And you need to allow that process without worrying about what's going on in the comments, because that's your existing audience. It's not your reach. This is even more important now because of the way how sophisticated the algorithm is. So the people that are watching you now, social media, especially YouTube. I have most experience on YouTube. My second biggest experience is on Instagram, but let me speak to YouTube. So the way that the YouTube algorithm works is whoever is watching you right now, YouTube profiles those people and finds more people like them to show your content to. So let's say that you were making content about beginner level business, and a lot of people that don't really have any business are watching you. People that just want to get rich quick are watching you, and then some people are watching you that have a beginner level business, right? Well, the minute you start making content about scaling your business, because now maybe you want to move into making content on like bigger companies, right? The people that are not actually having a business, they haven't started anything, they're just watching you for entertainment, they'll start going crazy in the comments. They're gonna be like, oh my God, she's changed and this and that, and I like that version of you. The more they engage with your content, the more YouTube will think that those are the types of people that are watching your content, and it'll keep showing more of those type of people your content. So then you're gonna be like, oh my God, every time I make a video like this, it tanks. But if I make a video like this, it gets a lot of views. And you're like stuck in that spiral forever because you can't get out of it. And so what you're going to have to do is continuously keep making content for the next version, for the reach. Even though it's not gonna get the most views right now, you're going to basically gonna have to starve out the people that are not the match for you anymore. And like, if you keep making the content at that level without lowering your floor, that's where the floor thing comes in. You have to not be available for that content. Because the minute you're on a bad day and you're like, oh my God, my content isn't getting views, let me just make content lower than my floor, like lower than what I wanna make, more of those people will keep coming back and you get stuck and locked in. So what you're gonna have to do is keep making the higher consciousness, higher level content, even if it's not getting views. And you're gonna have to keep doing it until these people leave, the people that weren't a match for you anyways, the people that weren't gonna grow with you and your brand, the people that don't share your personal values, they leave, and more of those people comment, the reach people, so that YouTube says, okay, this channel is attracting these type of people, let's show that content to more of those type of people. So let me explain this in my language. So I have 4 stages of consciousness: basic babe, self-aware Barbie, $1 million babe, and high-end divinity. I talk about this in my books. These are the 4 consciousness stages that I teach from. If I made content that attracted a lot of basic babes, let's say I had a video that go viral and attracted a lot of basic babes, what would happen now is YouTube would say, okay, these people are the ones watching her content, let's show more of these type of people. And every time I did a video for basic babes, more of those would come in. But let's say that my brand is at the $1 million babe level and I want to actually go into high-end divinity level now. Well, that's going to be a big problem, because every time I make content for $1 million babes, the algorithm in the beginning will punish me. It will seem like that, but it's like not going to show it, because when it shows it to the basic babes, they're not going to click on it and it's not going to get a lot of views. But the people that do watch it are going to be the buyers for where my brand is. So the numbers will go down, but the sales will go up. And so what happens is a lot of times content creators will feel disheartened because they're like, okay, well, when I make this kind of content, I get a lot of views. But when I make this kind of content, I don't get a lot of views. Let me just go back. Do not do that. The minute you lower your floor, the algorithm keeps learning that you want more followers, because basic babes are followers. $1 million babes, self-aware Barbie, $1 million babes, and high-end divinity are buyers. You are a business owner. You are not a content creator. And so every time you lower your standard, and I have really struggled with that last year, is because I really started pivoting my brand into my next level. And the kinds of content that was getting a lot of views was the lower level content, the stuff I had outgrown. And so more and more of those people would watch and they would comment saying, oh, Mina's changed. I like that version of her, because they're still living in that year. They're still living years ago. I've quantum leaped. And then every so often I'm like, oh, let me just make that content, and I would make it again. And then the YouTube algorithm would be like, yes, this is what we like from her. Because when they show it to the basic babes, they click on that. Basic babes are not buyers. They're not people I enjoy working with. They are not, that's not my zone of genius. And so do not fall under that trap. Most of social media is full of basic babes that watch for entertainment. They're used to entertainment. They're watching it just for entertainment. They are not the right people for your brand. Now, previously, before the algorithm got this sophisticated, it didn't matter as much, because it's like, okay, I got a lot of followers and some of them buy. Now it matters even more, because YouTube profiles people on buyers versus followers. So if you keep making content that is below your floor, you're gonna keep attracting followers, and it's gonna mess with your head, because you're like, okay, I have 20,000 views on this video, but 3 people bought my thing. Versus, wouldn't you rather have 300 people watch your video and 100 people bought your thing? Because those are your ideal buyers. Those are the kind of people that you want to have long-term business relationship with, that they have the kind of conversations that light you up, that evolve you and your brand. That's the reason that you got in business anyways, right? You enjoy talking to those people. And so we want to really make sure that we're making our branding cohesive with our personal values, that we are making content for the right people, and that we're always staying above our floor. In fact, if you want help with this, I would highly recommend signing up for my Identity Queen workshop. It's a masterclass that's happening on October 5th, and it's literally created to help you raise your floor so that you're attracting buyers and not just followers, and you're actually having the kind of conversations you want to have in your business, so that there is longevity in your business. And this is something that you can continue doing and evolving, and you're not locked into the 1995 version of yourself thinking this is the only way that you can sustain your business. So I'll link it in the description box. It's also pinned to the first comment. Let me know your thoughts on this, and I will see you in the next one.